Honorable Speaker, you are aware, many of our contractors today, in all our constituencies, we have contractors who are doing roads and other projects who have downed their tools because of non-payment. And maybe if we had the opportunity to get 1.2 trillion shillings, we borrow 1.2 trillion shillings to go into productive work of ensuring that all the roads that have been commissioned and contracted for get back to work. That 1.2 trillion shillings, the multiplier effect on the economy will be huge. And even the revenue generation, but just having those debts in our books are not helping as a country. Honorable Speaker, the second element that I want to support in this report is the issue of the single treasury account. And it is sad that over the years, at least in the last 6 years, even when I was chair of the Budget and Operations Committee in 2018, this is a recommendation we had in our report, that the National Treasury must ensure there is a single treasury account, because that is the only way we can optimize on our cash flows, Honorable Speaker. Even in your own small households, we are only able to account for how much money we have in liquid, or rather liquid cash, if you're able to put your money together and know this is how much I have, and be able to prioritize as you budget, where can I apply the resources I have today? But Honorable Speaker, let us also not lie to each other. The truth is that as much as we insist on government having a single treasury account, the biggest impediment to a single treasury account are our state corporations, the SAGAs, the semi-autonomous government agencies. Honorable Speaker, because many of these SAGAs are using the huge resources they have to be able to negotiate with commercial banks, private commercial banks, for kickbacks over government deposits. And government is going back to the same banks to borrow. And I have no fear, Honorable Speaker, even in mentioning some of these sagas, if you look at the Kenya Roads Board, for instance, you'll find at every one single month, they have close to 15 to 20 billion shillings they are keeping in private commercial banks. Yet the same government that has disbursed this money to them through fuel levy is going back to the same commercial banks to borrow. And Honorable Speaker, if you want to know the genesis of corruption in state corporations, it is in the mobilization of deposits on where they will deposit. No wonder, Honorable Speaker, in the 12th Parliament, when I came up with a bill to try and limit where government banks, Honorable Speaker, the resistance was so huge that that bill could never see the light of day. But we cannot give up. We cannot afford to give up, Honorable Speaker. And we must pursue, we either have a single treasury account or we limit where government banks, government ministries, departments, or agencies of government, either to bank with the government-owned banks, and therefore government that doesn't need to go back to private commercial banks to borrow. But anyway, Honorable Speaker, due to the state capture that existed before, all these things sounded like songs. And indeed today, even as we pontificate about borrowing, and I did hear the deputy leader of minority ask, are we not borrowing? Yes, we are borrowing. At 50-50, as a committee proposes, I support. And the honorable leader of minority, deputy leader of minority, my brother Robert, was asking, why is it then every other leader committed during the campaign that we shall not borrow? And I want to correct you, Robert. When I listened to the Kenya Kwanza leader, the current president, the legitimately elected president, President William Ruto, he never said he shall not borrow, but he said we shall do so in a responsible manner, not borrowing in an irresponsible manner as the previous regime was doing. And indeed, the president asserted when he was being sworn in that we are in an economic hole and in a debt hole. And the most foolish thing that we could do as a country is not to continue digging into that hole.
There is a point of order from Honorable Patric.
I am sure there is nothing out of order.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, with a lot of respect of the leader of majority, just say that there is a legitimate elected president. Is he insinuating that there is another one who is illegitimately elected, Madam Speaker? Is he in order?
You have put your point of order, Honorable Makau.
You know, Honorable Speaker, the former mayor from Avoko, I know English might be a problem to him. Because there's nothing wrong with asserting that the president we have is a legitimately elected president. I did not say there is another president, and there cannot be another president. I know he was hoping that I would affirm that there is a people's president who is always fond of swearing himself in. I am not in that line of thought, the member from Avoko. Honorable Speaker, you'll add me a minute because of that interruption. Honorable Speaker, I was saying we must borrow and borrow so responsibly. And that is what this government has committed to. That when the president asserted that we will not continue digging in the debt hole is because of the irresponsible borrowing that was going on. And the assertion he followed up that with the supplementary estimates with cutting our expenditure and towards fiscal consolidation, cutting 300 billion shillings. I want to confirm to the House and to the country that that actually did happen. And indeed, even as we wait without anticipating debate on the budget policy statement, the reason and only reason why the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee and members of the committee are not in this House today is because they are still cracking the numbers to ensure one.
1 more minute, Majority Leader, you wind up.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying they are still cracking the numbers to ensure that the BPS statement that comes before this House, one, is aligned to the value chain, a value chain-oriented budget policy statement that takes money to our priority areas as a Kenya Kwanza government, something that we failed to do in the last regime. We kept talking about the Big Four agenda, a Big Four agenda that had no resources being committed to it.